Welcome to Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego, California, home. And the Aztecs will kick it away to start. From inside the 10-yard line, he'll bring it back. He was hoping for something a little more dynamic, but they get him on the ground at the 20. So Colorado State's offense will have the football first. They got an incredibly efficient performance from this guy last time out. Now, Jesse, it's about making that a consistent thing.
Yeah, I think the most impressive thing watching that tape back from his last game was the ball never touched the ground, David. It was amazing. And it wasn't that he was so accurate throwing the ball deep down the field. It's just that the ball was always going to the open guy. He did a really good job checking it down, taking the profit when it wasn't open downfield. That kept the offense.
And you know this is going to be a challenge. I better get pressure on this guy. If I let him feel comfortable, you'll see another day like last week. I mean, that dude was accurate. Almost every ball was caught. They were in rhythm. They're going to have to find some creative ways to get him off his spots and make him feel uncomfortable.
The Aztecs offense has its first opportunity of the day. Let's take a quick second to call out some of the impact players their coaches mentioned in meetings this week. Anything you guys heard that really resonated with you?
Yeah, I love when coaches talk about guys that bring it every single day. Like, that we can depend on them. They can get other guys lined up. They're always motivated. They're always being a great teammate. These are the guys that coaches love.
And big-time players make big plays in big games, right? These are the guys that have to play well if they're going to win games like this.
Quarterback can pull the trigger, and down he goes at the 41.
And the defense gets a sack, and that's going to be the big determining factor in this football game. A week ago, he only got sacked one time. They've already got him on the ground. If they want to win this football game, they got to keep getting after the quarterback.
Now a lot of work to do to move the chains, keep this drive alive after that earlier sack. On 3rd and long, he'll need to loosen up that arm. That pass not close as he got drilled trying to deliver it, and it'll bring up 4th down. First boot of the day is on its way. He was called on 3 times in that loss last week. That nifty return sets up the offense and negates some of the yardage on the punt. Colorado State takes over the Ram. Offense returns to the field. Off the play fake on 1st down. He's got an open man. Now they're starting to feel it. They've got a 1st down at the 44. The Rams are in the hurry-up.
Great job by the quarterback throwing against zone coverage. You cannot telegraph where you're throwing the football. You cannot eyeball wide receivers. So great job by the quarterback using his eyes, not staring down his guy, and then throwing him open.
Grab behind the line. It's Dupree. He makes the stop at the 33, but 10 yards on that play and a 1st down. Plays like that put just a second of hesitation in the defense to make sure, and they're able to take advantage here.
And they use great timing with this call, right? Like, you can't call this play all the time, but you want to catch them when they're a little bit aggressive, not thinking about it. Nice job slipping the screen behind them, making the easy catch, and then getting downfield, picking up some extra yards.
And the Rams with a 2nd and short to keep this drive moving.
Nice job by the QB, sitting back in the pocket. You can tell he wants to throw the football, go through his progressions. Nothing home, take off.
He makes a grab into the end zone. Touchdown, Colorado State.
This offense is so good. Man, they can hurt you in so many different ways, and they do it so quick, so explosive. They can put small drives together, big drives together. They've really had a great year, and that's why they're a top 10 offense.
They get set for the point after as we have the first score of the game. And the PAT makes it 7-0. We check in with Kevin Connors. What's going on, Kevin?
Right, guys, got a final score on one of the more intriguing games this week. ULM looked less like a group of Warhawks and more like a bunch of road warriors in a solid victory. This team almost always plays tough in Monroe, and today they found a way outside of Malone Stadium. One game, I know, fellas, but this could be one to circle when we consider the big picture there in the Sun Belt.
And Kevin Connors keeping an eye on everything all over the country. Sounds like they had a good one there. Off the play fake. Throws to the wideout. Intercepted, and the defense has set him up. And they'll get him down after a solid return.
A really nice job by the linebacker there, understanding his responsibilities in that coverage. That's a cover 2 look. So there's 2 safeties playing deep, but the linebacker...
Guys, we'll have another peek at this Rams offense. Already a solid start to this one. Now back to work with this 7-0 lead. Unloads quickly. They'll finally put the brakes on him at the 3. A big throw, catch and run on that one. The Rams have it with a 1st and goal. He'll keep it himself. And he's in for the touchdown, but hang on just a second. There is a flag on the field. That is a costly mistake as the penalty wipes the touchdown off the board. He's looking to throw. Looking for the goal line. They've got it down to the 3-yard line. Really well done on that throw and catch. 2nd and goal for this offense. They'll try to run it in. And he is stopped. Not getting close to the end zone. Line of scrimmage still at the 3. Looking to throw on 3rd and goal. Quarterback floating away from pressure. And he'll step into the end zone. Touchdown, Colorado State.
Love the quick decision-making by the quarterback. It's not just who's the open guy and who am I throwing it to. It's also having that clock, David, in your head that says, if no one's open and I'm down near the red zone, I'm taking off now and I'm using my athleticism and I'm getting a score.
Yeah, you love the decision-making. I hate the defense. Why are we dropping back so far in the end zone? We got to keep eyes on this QB. We know he can take off. We know he can make plays. The field shrinks, man. You got to expect that's coming. Not very good defense.
And the extra point will tack another one onto this lead. Quick work on that scoring drive, just 4 plays. Kickoff unit on the field, and this defense will be called on to protect this lead. On the run from inside his own 5. Nice job executing all of the assignments as they put a stop to that return at the 22. San Diego State takes over as the offense is ready to go to work. They've gotten off to a sluggish start and need to put something together on this drive. Able to scrounge 3 yards out of that one somehow. It's 2nd and 7. The Aztecs racing to the line in the hurry-up. Smith dropping to pass. It's complete to the right. They bring him down, but not before he's able to pick up the 1st down. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs. The give to the back. Not much running room there thanks to this senior defender. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. After the 3-yard pickup, they come to the line 2nd and 7. Back to pass. And he really needed to hold on to that one, but it was not loose, and 3rd down is coming. And now let's see if the offense can bail itself out after the 2nd down misfire. Oh, they're after him. Spins away from the defense. He's got 1st down yardage across the 50. They'll mark it at the 49.
And I love the change in decision-making, right? That was a much better job. Last possession, tried to force it in there, threw the interception. This possession, it's not there. Take off and scramble. Great job. You got enough athletic ability to do that. Big 3rd down conversion by this offense.
Back in motion, try to clear the picture. got his man on the right. And they reacted well to the completion, but it was too late to keep him from getting the first down. Coming out on first down with the play fake. And it's incomplete. If you're going to take a hit like that, you might as well hang on to the ball. Plenty of distance between them and the sticks here on second down. Give to the running back. And he never had a chance. Just stopped cold as soon as he got it. Ninth play of the drive coming up, but this one will be tough. Third and long. Smith wants to throw. Fires to the wideout. Got a man in the middle. He's brought down, but there's a flag on the field. Let's see what the call is.
Hold on.
A costly penalty wipes out that third down conversion, and now they'll back up and try it again. He'll pull it on the read. He stopped short, and it's fourth down. And the Aztecs will try to pin them back with the punt. This will be the second time they've had to kick it away. And nobody able to handle that punt. They'll let it bounce and roll out of bounds. Off the play fake on first down to throw. He put some heat on that one down the middle. And he's brought down after a huge completion. And the Rams want to crank the tempo.
What a throw on first down in the first play of the drive. And I think sometimes quarterbacks are given an alert on a specific play. And what that means is maybe the ball...
Just too much of a rush, and down goes the quarterback just behind the midfield stripe at the 49.
Pressure on this QB. Can't give him time to get comfortable. They get to him, get the big sack. Maybe this gets them back in the football game.
The Rams have put themselves in dire straits after that last play. It's second and a mile. The play action fake. Quickly to the tight end. They bring him down, but a solid pickup to put them in position to pick up a first down. That's the end of the quarter, and Colorado State is on top. They largely dominated this first quarter as indicated by the stats. Big turning point as we head into the second and get this game rolling again. This offense had a little extra time to think about it. Let's see what they have on third down. They're looking for space to run behind the left tackle. Got enough for the first down. Down to the 26-yard line before they ride him out of bounds, and this defense is on its heels.
For the offense.
They'll give it to him again. An explosive play in the running game as he's got the first down. And the Rams kept this drive moving on the ground, now back to work. He's looking to pass. Unleashes to the end zone. Touchdown, Colorado State. The finisher, the exclamation point on that drive. They've extended the lead and taken control here in Week 9.
Man, I've been really impressed with this offense this first half. Coming in a hostile environment, hostile crowd. Man, they haven't given them anything to cheer about. Offense, defense, now up 20-0, and these people are eerily quiet in here.
And with the extra point, they're up 21-0. So that scoring drive took only 6 plays. Kickoff unit has been busy as they have built a big lead, and they're trying to hold on to it. And he'll just take a knee, and this drive will start at the 25. Guys, we're about to get another look at this San Diego State offense. There's still plenty of time, but you see that 21-point deficit, and there is a sense of urgency now. The Aztecs headed quickly to the line. Smith dropping to pass. Nowhere close on that one as he got drilled trying to deliver the football, and now they face third down. Got it, looking for a first. Nice job to get it past the sticks, and they get him down at the 35. And the Aztecs have it with a 1st and 10.
And that's a really good job by the QB, getting the ball out of his hands, knowing where the sticks are, getting the first down. And they saw something they like, because here they come, right back on the ball to run another play.
This senior shows some serious arm strength, firing that one in for the 1st down.
QBs, when they see these zone coverages, man, some of them panic. Some of them throw it too quickly and can make bad decisions. I like how he waited a little bit, waited for the right window, the right opportunity. There's always going to be holes in zones. I just got to be a little bit patient.
Quarterback on the keeper. They make the stop, but he'll have enough yardage for a 1st down.
Well, the defense did a pretty good job that time on the option play of having someone dedicating themselves to the quarterback to get him down. Not enough to stop the offense from picking up the 1st down, though. The defense really needs to be keyed in on this, because they're going to see this option play more and more as this game goes on.
Halfway there on 1st down, it's 2nd and 5. Going to the ground. That is a big win for this defense, as they were right there as soon as he got the ball. Now facing a 3rd and long. From the gun, wants to pass. Unloads to the wideout. Finds a man in the middle. And he takes it all the way down to the 10-yard line. An explosive play for this offense. Smith wants to throw. Lets it fly. Touchdown, Aztecs! Quick strike through the air for the score. Quarterback stays clean in the pocket on that touchdown pass. A little thank you is in order to the offensive line.
Maybe find him an NIL deal, right? Feed those guys. Go get them to a buffet. Take care of those big uglies up front, because when you have that kind of pocket, you should take advantage of it. You should be able to make big plays, and he does.
And after the extra point, they're now down 21-7. And for a quick update, let's go to Kevin Connors in the studio.
Guys, I believe someone calls it the Conference of Champions. Pac-12 action today. Utah State is currently trailing in this one, but it feels like the tide may be turning. These Aggies have picked themselves up before, and they're capable of it again today. It's a touchdown game. They're trailing by 7 to Oregon State. We'll keep you posted on things in this game that's sure to shake things up in the Pac-12, guys.
Thanks for the update on that one, Kevin. Let us know when it goes final. The officials offer the deal, and the coach accepts it. They will take the penalty. He wants to throw it. Got it in the middle. It's Shelton. Jumped on top of the pile. The Rams in the hurry-up. Back to pass on 2nd down. It's complete to the left. And he's got enough for the 1st down. They'll mark it at the 34.
That's a 1st down for the offense.
Use the play fake. Now to throw. Grabbed in the middle. It's Bell. They'll get him down, but not before he crosses the 50. He's down to the 49. The offense set for a 1st down play.
It is so good for an offense early in the game to get in a rhythm. Starting to get tired. They want to sub. They want to get other guys on the field. Stringing 1st downs together like this makes it hard to defend.
Brings up 2nd down.
He wants to throw it again. Pressure is effective from the defense. They knock it down just behind the midfield stripe at the 48. Trying to move the sticks on 3rd down through the air. Fires toward the end zone. Touchdown Rams! They went for the big play, and boy, did it ever pay off.
And Man, is that perfect timing. You can tell quarterback drops back. He sees his guy, and he knows he's open. But watch the throw. Deep down the field, Palmer, right in the breadbasket. Nice play, nice pitch and catch.
He did a nice job at getting it up in the air early and allowing his guy to run under the football, locate it, and then make a tough grab. That is the definition of an explosive play.
Lining up for the PAT.
For the extra point.
And they knocked through the extra point, and they're up 28-7. So that scoring drive took only 6 plays. And the capper coming on that 48-yard touchdown dart. And he'll bring it out of the end zone. I imagine he's going to get an earful on the sideline after bringing it out of the end zone and being knocked down at the 11. Off the play fake on first down to throw. Caught in the backfield, it's Rainey. Tried to hit him with a quick game on first down and nothing doing there. Behind the chains now on 2nd and long. Smith dropping to pass. Got his man downfield. And he's almost to that first down marker there, saying he's a little bit short. They might want to bring out the sticks and measure, but it looks as if he'll be just short of the first down. Off the boot, looking for his man. Got his man quickly. This offense has a little room and a fresh set of downs at the 23. We're at the 2-minute timeout, and these guys really need to build a little momentum to cut into this lead before halftime. From the shotgun now, here's an inside give. This junior making his presence felt and making the stop after a short gain. Second down, they'll go to the air. Got room to work. Got the first down. And a nice pickup on the run and gets down to avoid contact. The Aztecs will hustle to the line. Wants to throw on first down. Makes the grab. He puts him in business across the 50 into the 46-yard line. It'll be first down. Looking to throw on first down. Throws to the wideout. Got him downfield. Really good surge for this offense. They move the chains, and he's got it at the 34. Looking downfield on first down. Catch in the middle. It's Rainey. A 7-yard pickup. It'll be 2nd and 3. And the Aztecs with myriad options after that big pickup on first down. And there was nowhere to go, just stopped in his tracks in the backfield. They're within field goal range at the 29. Let's see if they can pick up a few or the first down on third. Makes the grab down the middle. And they stop him just short of the stick. It'll bring up a decision on 4th down. Referee signals timeout. It's the defense wanting to make sure that they have everything just right with a big play coming. Absolutely perfect. That cuts the lead down to 28-10. So they put the field goal on the board and about to kick it away, and hoping that'll be the final points of this first half. He'll bring it out from inside his own 10. He was hoping for something a little more dynamic, but they get him on the ground at the 20. They'll get a chance to work on that hurry-up offense here in the final minute of the first half. They'll move the wide receiver. First play of the drive, wants to throw. Got a man.
And I love when my quarterback sees zone and knows exactly where to go with the football. Sees the wide receiver running the drag route, knows when to throw it, pulls the trigger for the easy completion.
The offense will stop the clock and use one of its timeouts. And the Rams can really attack on this 2nd and short. Looking to fire. He's going to run it. Nifty little scamper on this one. Enough for the first down, and he slides in safely. Deep zone coverage here by the defense. The offense will quickly use a timeout. They've got it at the 37. It's 1st and 10. To the air on first down. Fires to the wideout. Got it in the middle. It's Darnold. Defense on skates that time. They finally drag him down at the 42.
And that's good enough for a first down.
Wants to go up top on first down. With the catch, it's Shelton. And the defense makes the tackle, and that ought to do it here in the first half.
He's brought down at the 38.
We've played 2 quarters here. Time to go to Kevin Connors in our halftime update.
Thanks, guys. Looks like a terrific atmosphere there today in San Diego. And there's no more fitting place to begin than with this stud receiver and how he's dominated the first half. Some guys have the ability to elude and evade. This young man is a true 3-level threat. Short passes, the intermediate game, and then the deep ball. He is a problem, and I don't think this defense has the solution. And just like that, let's send it back to the fellas inside Snapdragon Stadium.
We are just about ready to start the second half.
Set to kick off.
On the move from inside his 5. He was looking for more running room, but none to be found as he stopped at the 23. Guys, let's see what adjustments this San Diego State offense has made this time. He'll do it himself. You'll take this every time. 5 yards on the first down play. The Aztecs come to the line in the hurry-up. From the gun, they'll try to impose their running game. They make the stop, but there is a flag on the field. We'll see what that's all about.
Hold it.
They say you could call holding on every play. Well, they did on that one. The RPO, it's complete. They make the stop, not a whole lot of ground picked up there, and they'll have work to do to get the first down. Smith wants to throw. Hauls it in. He did not make it a stone wall on third down. And the Aztecs will line up to punt it away. Let's see if he can help the coverage team out with this one. That's usually prime return position, but he'll make the fair catch just outside the 40. Off the play fake on first down, wants to throw. Finds his tight end. And just a short, safe pass play, they pick up a few. Working well behind the sticks on second down. Motion from the back. To the air on second down. Working that left side now. And they'll stop him just short of the first down, just inches away from moving the sticks. He'll sneak it and try to surge forward. All down, but he has enough to move the chains. The Rams have it with a 1st and 10. Motion from the wideout. Off the bootleg, looking to fire. He finds a dead spot in the middle. That's about as close as you can get to that marker, and it will be second and just a few breaths away from the first down. Rams have this offense rolling. Looking to throw on first down. Trying to buy a little time, and he cannot, but he does get it back closer to the line of scrimmage.
Well, that defender just was better in his one-on-one on the pass rush. He does a great job beating the offensive lineman to get to the QB.
The Rams with a long way to go after the... The last play. Gonna sling it on second down. And he feels the heat coming and it burns him up. Another sack.
That defender is a matchup nightmare for any offensive lineman to block. He's got athleticism, he's got length, he's got flexibility. He put it all on display on that sack.
Now a lot of work to do to move the chains, keep this drive alive after that earlier sack. He'll take it himself. Creates a little room. Oh, he's got some space.
That's a big key for this offense. Now, you've got the lead here in the second half. You want to run the football. You got to just keep getting positive yards. You got to keep the third downs manageable so you can stay on the field, bleed the clock. That's going to be the key for this offense and their team winning the game.
Going to the run, it's Dupree. They'll wrestle him down at the 4-yard line after that run. Going to work in the red zone, they can't pick up the first down without getting it into the end zone. Here's the handoff.
And that's how you respond as a defense, man. You give up 9 yards on first down. Second down, man, they bring some pressure. They are in the backfield fast, and they make the tackle for a loss and completely flip the script. Almost a guaranteed first down.
Touchdown, Colorado State. And the punishment has been extended. He has been surgical. Precision passes, using the scalpel, the fine instrument, rather than the blunt one.
And the defense has had absolutely no answer for it. Just, he's been down their throats all game long, a step ahead, understanding what he's seeing, and just destroying this defense.
And with the extra point, they push the lead out a little further. And let's check in with Kevin Connors in the studio. Kevin?
A lot of interest in this Pac-12 showdown today, so let's catch you up to speed on things. Utah State is being humbled today. There's just no other way to say it. A complete and thorough thumping. They're trailing by 17 to Oregon State. If anything changes in this pivotal Pac-12 matchup, guys, you know we're here to bring it to you.
Oh, and how about that? I know Kevin and those guys will be keeping an eye on it for us. So now it's second and long. Out of the shotgun, they go to the ground. He's knocked down behind the line of scrimmage again, and this just hasn't been his day. Nowhere to run. Smith dropping to pass. The screen, he can go. Makes his way out to the 20 before he stopped, and that'll bring up a fourth down. The Aztecs will punt it away on fourth down. Fair catch is brought in at the 43, and they are set up nicely. We will see what this Colorado State offense can get done this time. What a good mix of plays, keeping that defense off balance last time, David.
And Reese, they don't know if it's run or if it's pass.
David, I think you keep running the football because that sets up the play action, it sets up the RPO game, and then you keep this defense guessing.
Finding an escape route. They make the stop, but not before he takes a chunk out of what they need to move the sticks. And here comes the offense on second down. Off play action. He puts a lot of air under it down the sideline. Makes the grab. And he just kept running, and he ran away from the crowd, and he'll take it in. Touchdown, Colorado State.
And these plays, nice job by the offensive line, buying some time. And how about the quarterback with a great decision? Seeing his receiver start on the left side, come all the way across the formation.
Point is good. This offense prides itself on going after you, and they did with that long touchdown pass to finish off a two-play drive.
42, San Diego State, 10.
And it'll be a touchback. The ball will come out to the 25-yard line. The Aztecs offense ready to go back to work. Smith wants to throw. And the physical play there forces the incompletion on first down. What will they dial up on second, and a long way to go? They'll send the back in motion. grabbed behind the line. It's raining. He's there to make the stop, and they threw it in reverse, losing yardage on that play.
Love the play by the defense. They just did a good job understanding where the running back was on that play. After the catch, they're able to make the tackle right away, and now they've set up third down.
On third and long, a check down would be the last resort. On target over the middle. And he gets it done on third down. They move the chains, and they'll mark it at the 44. Wants to throw on first down. And that incomplete pass caused by the big hit on first down. Second down coming. Plenty of work to do here on second and long. Wants to go up top. This time on target. And he won't quite get there. But boy, after that pickup, just a few inches to go for the first. An array of possibilities here. They'll try to sneak it.
Nice play call, QB sneak, yet another first down. And this offense, they've been on the field for some time now. They're helping their defense out, giving them some wins so that when they get back on the field, they'll be ready to play with their hair on fire.
Trying to escape and get it himself.
And we've seen this several times now. Like, he is more than willing to take off and make plays. And you can tell the defense is starting to adjust a little bit. They see it. They know it's a pass, but they had eyeballs on him. And as soon as he took off, they ran to him, and they made sure they got him on the ground.
And the Aztecs will line it up on 1st and 10. From the gun, the running back has it. They pull him down after a 4-yard gain down to the 24. Halfway there on first down, it's 2nd and 5. Smith dropping to pass. He's brought down, but he went backwards after that completion, not the way they had it drawn up. A little less room to work with now as the ball's at the 28, and it's 3rd and long. It's complete. Got enough to move the sticks. First down from the 17. They're threatening to score, and they'll throw it. He's got it. That throw and catch gets them down to the 6, and the defense is running out of answers. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. The Aztecs will try to punch it in on 1st and goal. He's looking to throw. Lets it go to the end zone. Touchdown, San Diego State. Grab the short pass to put the 6 on the board.
And the defense just has to do a better job in coverage in that situation. Down close to the goal line, you know it's going to be man coverage. You just have got to do a better job sticking on your guy. And the defender just simply got beat.
Ready to try the point after. Bangs it through for an extra point. Precise, relentless execution on that 13-play scoring drive. And they get it into the end zone with a 6-yard touchdown pass. Here he comes from inside his own 5. Really disciplined job by the coverage unit to get down there and make the stop at the 19. This should be the last play of the quarter. Off play action on first down. Showing the arm strength down the left side. They get him on the ground, and that'll be the final play of this 3rd period. And you want to talk about his favorite receiver, it might be everybody based on the number of guys getting touches and a chance to show off their hands in the passing game. Just about ready to go in the 4th, and we'll see if any drama can be mustered. Final stands in the game, and we'll start with the first down. From the gun, they'll try the middle. A confident, tough, efficient run gets it up to the 44. And the Rams in a good spot here with 2nd and short. They'll go right back to the run. Inside the 45. A huge play there, and they finally get him out of bounds at the 37. It's first down from the 37-yard line. Use the play fake, now to throw. A strike downfield. They bring him down, but the big play will move the sticks.
I just continue to be impressed watching this guy play. Good decision-making, very accurate. He's obviously got a lot of talent surrounding him, so no surprise with that last completion. He's now over 3,000 yards on the year.
After coming up with back-to-back explosive plays, here they are, 1st and goal. They'll try to get it in with the run. He'll be brought down at the 5-yard line, and this defense is on its heels. Now it's 2nd and goal. Back to pass. Got it behind the line. It's Dupree. Touchdown, Colorado State. And they take it in for 6 more points. They give themselves a little more cushion as they try to reel off their 4th straight win.
Points, points, and more points. This offense has had their way. They just keep their foot on the gas, keep putting up points, keep putting up touchdowns. And you know what? This is one of those stats days. You look back and you're like, that guy had 12 touchdowns on the year. Well, 4 or 5 of them might have been in this game.
And the extra point just tacks a little bit more onto this huge lead. They're getting set to kick it away, and that last score took a little oomph out of this crowd.
49, San Diego State, 17.
And he'll just take a knee, and this drive will start at the 25. San Diego State takes over as the offense is ready to go to work. Smith wants to throw. Finds his big tight end. The modest gain on the completion really shows why you want to run the zone, make them execute, and rally to the ball.
100%. Zone eyes on the quarterback. I see him throw the football, break on it, go make tackle.
Breaks into the open. Across the 50 and knocked out of bounds at the 48. An explosive play gets this offense working. Looking to throw on 1st down. And this will be incomplete. A big hit there forces 2nd down. Couldn't make the connection last time. Let's see if they throw it again. Just keep slinging it. Snagged out of the air. Not much running room there thanks to this senior defender.
And that's a good job by the drag route there, understanding its zone coverage. So instead of continuing to run across the field, he settles down into an open spot, making it easy for his quarterback.
Fires to the right. He makes a catch. They are on the move down to the 32, and they pick up another 1st down. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. And the Aztecs are moving quickly down the field. Out of the gun to give to the back. Defense there to make the stop after a pickup of 2 to the 30. Got 3 on 1st down at 2nd and 7. Now the play fake. Snagged in the middle. It's 4. And this one will be stopped for no gain. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. Coming to the line of scrimmage at the 30. It would be a long field goal, but they'd love to pick up a few here on 3rd and long. From the gun, wants to pass. Fires deep toward the end zone. And that deep shot's going to wind up incomplete, but we do have a flag on the field. Let's see what the official says.
Hold it.
They'll decline that penalty, obviously very happy with results of the play. On 4th down, they'll throw for it. Right down the middle. Big tight end makes the grab. It's a 1st down. Got enough to move the sticks. 1st down from the 17. They'll throw it from the red zone. Unloads to the wideout. It's caught downfield. He stopped just short of the goal line, but they'll have it 1st and goal from the 1. They'll try to get it in with the run. And he takes it in for the score. Touchdown, Aztecs! Once the game reaches this point, you start thinking ahead and how you can find something positive to take into the next game.
Dang right. Keep the offense rolling. Try to find some plays that I can use throughout this season that I can have some more success, or I guess have success. I haven't had a lot of success today, but I'm looking for the future.
And he made the extra point without problem. Let's go to the studio now and check in with Kevin Connors. Kevin, what do you got?
Guys, we've got a final score for a notable game today in the American. USF sparkled today in a dominant road win. In fact, by the fourth quarter, it almost felt like this game was being played in Tampa. That's how much they took that crowd out of it. Never a dull moment when it comes to the American. Back to you guys.
Yeah, how about that? Sounds as if they had a good ball game there. Kevin, thanks for the update. Squirts across the 30 to the 32, a pickup of 5. Smart move to keep it on the ground. They knock him down, but he's got enough to get it across the line and pick up the first down.
And that's a first down for the offense.
He'll keep it himself. Got the first down and still on his feet. All down, but he has enough to move the chains. Clock stops. We have reached the 2-minute timeout, and this offense just a couple of minutes away from putting one in the win column. Leaves it with the back. And the defense holds firm. No pickup at all on that play. Lost one on that last one. It's 2nd and 11. Handoff from the shotgun. Running into the open space. Made a defender miss. And he's ridden to the ground, but there's also a flag down. Let's check the call.
Hold it.
A solid gain on that one, and it goes for naught as the penalty will back them up. They'll keep it on the ground. Sweet cut there. They are on the move down to the 32, and they pick up another first down. The Rams pounded the rock to move the sticks, now back to work. Here's a quick throw out to the left. And he was fortunate not to lose yardage on that play, able to wedge it back to the line of scrimmage.
Really good defense. You know, you're trying to stay as close as you can to all these targets, and most importantly, those open field tackles and getting them on the ground as soon as they catch it. That's a major deal for defenses, and that was a good example there of it.
They get the W, and with that being win number 6, looks as if they're going bowling, guys.
And that's a good moment for this squad, right? Like, you start every season, you have big goals. It usually starts with your conference championship and winning a national championship, maybe going to the playoffs. Everybody has different goals, but getting to a bowl is always sweet, and this team's eligible now.
I know the coaches are really happy about this, the AD and the fans, because they know what it means for the program, right? You're going to get those 15 extra practices at the end of the year to help develop young talent. Looking ahead to next season, but that's next season. There's still a lot of football left to go this year. Let's just see how good of a bowl game they can get to.
That's going to do it from here. For David Pollack and Jesse Palmer, I'm Reese Davis, and you've been watching another presentation of EA Sports College Football.